All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into AI app development, specifically with this thing called GPT Pilot.
Okay.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah. It's been making some noise in the dev world.
It has, and we're going to take a look at why and how it works and all that good stuff.
Sounds good.
So first of all, what is GPT Pilot, and how is it different from other AI coding tools that we might have heard of?
Well, we've seen a bunch of tools that can just generate code, right?
Right.
But GPT Pilot is kind of a different beast.
Okay.
It's not just about churning out lines of code. It's more about collaborating with developers, taking on like a big chunk of the work, but still leaving room for that human touch.
So it's not replacing developers.
No,
It's
sorry.
more like a super powerful assistant or something.
Exactly.
Okay, so walk me through how this whole system works.
Sure. So, one of the key things about GPT Pilot is this concept of agents.
Agents.
Yeah, so think of it like this. You've got a whole team of specialized AI working alongside you. So you've got your product owner agent who's, setting the overall vision for the app. Then you've got your specification writer agent getting all those nitty-gritty details down. Then there's the architect agent figuring out the best technologies to use, and even, get this, a code monkey agent.
A code monkey.
Yep, that's the one actually, writing the code.
It was kind of funny.
Yeah, so you got this whole team of AI working together, each with its own specific role.
Okay, I like that analogy. It's like a well-oiled machine.
Right.
But how do these agents actually interact during like the actual development process? Can you give me an example?
Sure. So let's say you're building like a user authentication module for your app, right?
Okay.
So the architect agent, it might decide to use, say, OAuth 2.0,
Uh-huh.
and then it'll check if you have like the necessary libraries installed and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So it takes care of those initial setup tasks.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens next?
So then the tech lead agent steps in and breaks down that authentication module into smaller, manageable tasks. So, things like creating a login form,
Right.
handling password encryption, maybe integrating with the third-party provider.
Got it.
And each task is like clearly defined. So everyone, including the human developer, is on the same page.
And then this is where the code monkey comes in, right?
You got it.
Starts slinging code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So based on what the architect decided and how the tech lead broke things down, the code monkey gets to work, generating the actual code for each task.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. But hold on, it's not just mindless coding here.
Oh. What else is there?
We also have the reviewer agent.
Okay.
This guy acts like a quality control,
Right.
looks at the code, checks for any potential errors or vulnerabilities, and if something seems off, it flags it for revision.
So it's like having another developer looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, pretty much like a code review process, but automated.
That's really efficient.
Yeah, it is. It saves a lot of time and headaches.
But what happens if, like, the AI gets stuck?
That's a good question.
Does the developer have to, like, take over completely?
Not necessarily. See, GPT Pilot also has agents specifically for troubleshooting and debugging.
Oh, okay.
So they help pinpoint the issue and even suggest potential fixes. So the goal here is really to have GPT Pilot handle as much as possible, like ideally around 95% of the coding.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah, and that leaves the developer free to focus on the big picture stuff, the critical decisions, making sure everything aligns with their
It
vision.
was more like a partnership then.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, a collaboration between human and AI.
This is sounding less like a simple coding tool and more like a full-on development partner, which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. It's pretty revolutionary.
So how does this, like, unique approach actually translate into building real-world applications? Like, what are some examples of things GPT Pilot has already done?
So there's a bunch of interesting projects already out there. One example is a sentiment analysis tool for social media. GPT Pilot created the whole application, like collecting and analyzing the data, visualizing the results, the whole 9 yards.
Wow. So it can handle, like, complex applications, not
Mhm.
just simple websites or scripts.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What else?
Another example is like a web-based Pomodoro timer.
Okay, use one of those.
Yeah, they're great. So again, GPT Pilot handled everything, designing the interface, implementing the timer functionality, all of it.
That's pretty impressive.
And those are just a couple of examples. There are many more applications being developed showing how versatile GPT Pilot is and its potential across different areas.
This seems like it could be a game changer for all kinds of organizations.
Definitely.
But I'm curious, how would, like, different companies actually use GPT Pilot to their advantage?
Mhm.
Could you walk me through some specific scenarios?
Sure, let's start with startups, for example.
Okay.
They're often strapped for time and resources.
Yeah, for sure.
GPT Pilot could be a huge help for them to, rapidly prototype and test new ideas.
So they could get a minimum viable product out there much faster.
Exactly. Instead of spending months on initial development, they could get user feedback in weeks or even days.
That would be huge for a startup.
Right. Now, for small to medium businesses, GPT Pilot could help automate those repetitive coding tasks.
The ones that take up so much time.
Yeah, exactly. Things like creating basic CRUD operations or setting up API endpoints.
Nice.
GPT Pilot could handle that efficiently, and then the developers are free to focus on more, strategic tasks.
Like improving user experience or integrating with other systems.
Exactly. And even large enterprises could benefit. Imagine streamlining the development of internal tools or onboarding new developers more quickly. GPT Pilot could help standardize code quality and speed up development cycles across whole teams.
So it's not just a tool for certain types of companies or projects.
Right.
It's something that could be adapted and used across a wide range of organizations.
Exactly. It's about understanding the specific needs and challenges of each organization and then using GPT Pilot to address them.
That makes sense. Now, for companies that are interested in using GPT Pilot, what's the implementation process like? Is it complicated?
It's surprisingly straightforward, actually. You just clone the repository from GitHub, install the dependencies, and configure a few settings, like choosing your database.
Okay.
They support both SQLite and PostgreSQL, so you have options.
So someone with, like, basic coding knowledge could get GPT Pilot up and running without too much trouble.
Yeah, it's designed to be accessible so more people can explore this new world of AI-driven development.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of how GPT Pilot works, some potential uses for it, and how to get started.
Yep.
Now, I want to get into the bigger picture. Where do you see this technology going in the future? What kind of advancements or developments do you expect to see?
That's where things get really interesting.
All ears.
We're still in the early stages,
Right.
but the potential is huge.
Yeah, I can imagine.
One thing I'm really excited about is the potential for GPT Pilot to integrate with platforms like GitHub.
Okay, yeah.
Imagine being able to just start a GPT Pilot project right from your GitHub repo.
That would be awesome.
Pull in existing code, issue trackers, everything.
That would make things so much smoother.
It would, right. It'd be
Okay.
like GPT Pilot becomes part of your development environment.
Yeah, like a natural extension.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we might see GPT Pilot supporting multiple project branches, so teams can work on different features at the same time.
That's important for bigger projects, right?
Yeah, definitely. It makes it much more scalable.
So it's not just for individual developers then.
Right.
It could be a tool for whole teams to collaborate.
Exactly. And as AI models keep getting better, GPT Pilot's code generation and debugging, that's all going to get even more sophisticated.
It's like watching a developer evolve in real time.
That's a good way to put it.
Starts with the basics, then becomes this like coding powerhouse.
Yeah. And of course, with any new technology, there are challenges, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Security is a big one. We need to make sure the code GPT Pilot generates is secure and that sensitive data is protected,
Yeah, that's essential.
especially when you're dealing with applications that handle user data or critical business processes.
Absolutely. You can't compromise on security.
Right. And then there's the issue of bias in AI.
Oh, right.
If GPT Pilot is trained on data that's biased, it could introduce those biases into the code.
So developers need to be aware of that.
Yeah, they need to be vigilant and address any potential bias issues.
So it's a reminder that even though AI is powerful, it's still a tool. We need to use it responsibly
Exactly.
and ethically.
Yeah. Human oversight and critical thinking, those are still crucial.
This brings up an interesting question, though.
Okay.
What happens to human developers in this new world?
Yeah, that's the big question everyone's asking.
Are we headed for a future where AI takes over completely?
I don't think so.
Really?
I see it more as augmentation, not replacement.
Okay,
AI tools like GPT Pilot will automate a lot of tasks.
that's true.
But that frees up developers to focus on higher level stuff.
Stuff that requires creativity.
Exactly. Human ingenuity, that's not going away.
So instead of writing code, developers might become more like architects,
Yeah, I like that.
designing and overseeing these AI-powered development processes.
Exactly. Defining the vision, setting the strategy, making sure the technology aligns with human needs.
That's a pretty optimistic outlook.
It is.
It's not AI versus humans, it's AI working with humans.
Right, the collaboration.
And this collaboration could actually make software development more accessible
How so?
to people who don't have a lot of coding experience.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Imagine anyone with an idea can bring it to life, even without years of coding under their belt.
That would be amazing.
It would be revolutionary.
It's a real possibility.
Mhm.
GPT Pilot and tools like it, they're pushing us in that direction.
That's exciting.
It is. By lowering the barriers to entry, we could see a huge explosion of creativity and innovation.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time for software development.
It is. This deep dive has been super insightful.
Glad to hear it.
But before we wrap up, any final thoughts on what all this means for the future of software development?
It's an exciting time, but it's also challenging, you know?
Yeah, I bet.
Things are changing so fast.
That's true.
AI is becoming more and more important.
So where do you see things going from here?
Well, for developers, I think the key is to embrace lifelong learning.
Okay.
Technologies are evolving so quickly, you got to stay curious,
Right.
keep experimenting, be open to new ways of working.
So don't resist AI.
Exactly.
See it as an opportunity
Yeah.
to learn new skills.
Absolutely. Learn about AI concepts, experiment with these tools like GPT Pilot. Think about how you can use them to, improve your workflow, solve problems better.
So adapt and evolve.
Yeah,
Don't become obsolete.
exactly. And remember, AI is a tool. It's not a replacement for developers.
Right.
Your creativity, your problem-solving skills, those are still super valuable.
It's about finding that balance between human expertise and AI capabilities.
Right. And as we move forward, we need to think about the ethical side of AI, too.
Yeah, for sure.
As we give more tasks to AI, we got to make sure we're doing it responsibly.
What do you mean?
Well, we need to think about fairness, transparency, accountability.
It's not just about building cool tech.
No, it's about building tech that benefits everyone.
That makes the world a better place.
Exactly. The future of software development, it's really in our hands.
Yeah.
If we embrace collaboration, stay curious, and focus on ethics, we can use AI to create amazing things.
That's a great message to end on.
I think so too.
This has been a really fascinating look at GPT Pilot and AI in software development.
I agree.
Our listeners have a lot to think about
They do.
as they navigate this new world.
It's an exciting time.
It is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries.